this clip is about a parking ticket, and the guy who is speaking to the judge in America is asking the judge. He doesn't answer any questions, right? Because asking is done as king. The word asking is done as king. The word asking is as king. It's two words. And so as king, he doesn't answer any questions. He answers every question with a question as king, and he makes a counterclaim, and that's not answering a question. And the word question starts with a Q, and if you look it up in comedic alphabet, it's got a monkey, right? So it's a bit of a, you know, a monkey is, it's a human, it's a monster incapable of inheriting property in the Lex Mercatoria system. So when he says, how can I be a name, you'll hear her voice, it changes tone and almost starts to waver, and she says, it's a bit of a, I can't do a female voice, but you'll hear her voice waver. Now you've got to go and look at this clip. It's called J Heretic. He's really good. Every time I leave a comment here, it gets deleted. Okay, so I've left a comment about, there we go, it's right down here, 1 month ago. Right, so it doesn't come up the top here, right? It goes, they move it right down, right? So this is The Heretic, and I'm going to play the clip now.
Well, here we go again. Get up. A little something for your ear hole. Get up. Tearing a part of my soul again. Get up. Disturbed in the house, we're dropping the plates. You said it couldn't be done. Tell me that.
Okay, but the defendant isn't here.
Well, I believe there's a mistake. I was led to believe somebody here believes I made a claim to that name, so when can I speak to the claim? Who's claiming I made a claim to that name?
What are you talking about?
Well, I came to the Soka court because
Along with that order, he needs the one finding.
Okay, I can do that. So you're a witness for the person, you're not actually the named defendant?
well, I was led to believe the name belongs to the United States. The United States is the owner of it.
Well, if that person isn't here, they'll be found committed for failing to appear.
Failing to appear.
Mhm.
Who's claiming that?
If that person isn't here and no order is entered on their behalf and they're not presented at contested hearing, then they will be found committed for failing to appear.
How can a name answer to you?
So what you're saying is you'd like to contest?
Well, I'm just a witness. I believe there's a mistake. I believe somebody here believes I made a claim to that name. And I believe I came so you guys can correct this mistake.
Does he need to sign the committed one?
I think so.
Okay. Alright, okay. So signing off where it says defendant. We just need both orders together. So you're either that person or you're not.
Well, I'm a witness for
Thank
that
you.
name. I came here to give first-hand testimony. And I believe somebody here believes I made a claim to that name. So when can I speak to that claim?
Well, if they're not here, they can't consent to go to contested hearing, so you won't be called as a witness.
Well, I've been known to use that name.
You have, so you
Yeah.
are the defendant.
How can I be a name? Are you the claimant or who's the claimant?
Are you talking about the claimant? I represent the plaintiff.
You represent-
Okay.
You represent the claimant, right?
Mhm.
When's the last time you spoke to me? last time you spoke to the claimant? Somebody's claiming something, right? Is somebody claiming that there's a controversy concerned to that name?
Okay, so that person will just be marked as failing to appear.
Did I just give you first-hand knowledge that I've been known to use that name?
You can either talk to me,
Well,
and we can work out a deal.
how can I be a name, or how can I own a name? Can you explain that to me?
Okay,
Please.
we'll save you for the end.
Sure.
Okay. So it looks like you were given a citation for expired meter.
You mean the name was charged, right?
So was there anything wrong with the meter?
You mean the name? You're talking about the name, or are you talking about me?
Let's skip ahead and talk about the meter. Was there something wrong with it?
Well, I want to ask you, do you have any first-hand knowledge that I am that name? I mean, I believe there's a mistake. I came to the court here because I was led to believe that somebody here, there's somebody claiming that I made a claim on that name. So I was
Okay.
wondering, how am I liable for that name? Who owns that name? Because I've been known to use it, but who owns it? How am I liable for that name? And I would like to deal with this matter honorably. Where's the proper notice? Where's the meeting of the minds? That I agreed with, the claimant that I am the name, or that I own the name. I mean, if I can meet with the claimant, I'd be glad to. What is he that he can give me first-hand knowledge?
So it looks like the citing officer cited a two-door Lexus with license plate 5, and that is registered to the person who was cited.
Okay, and who does the officer work for?
The city of Spokane.
Okay, that's who he claims he represents?
No, he does represent.
Okay, so is the city of Spokane the claimant? Where is it the city
We're the
of
plaintiff.
plaintiff? And who's the plaintiff? Is it the plaintiff the
Is
claimant?
the city of Spokane.
Okay, so the city of Spokane, is the city of Spokane claiming anything? That there's a controversy?
That the meter was expired in violation of the Spokane Municipal Code for the vehicle that is registered to Mr. Driver.
Okay, so do you have first-hand knowledge that the city of Spokane said this? Because
I didn't issue the citation, if that's what you're asking me.
I'm trying to understand who is making the claim, because obviously somebody's making a claim, right?
The city of Spokane, and
Okay.
I'm just here to prosecute that claim.
Okay, since the city of Spokane, and based on your testimony, is the claimant, when can I meet that claimant?
Right now.
Right now?
Mhm.
Are you the city of Spokane?
Yes. For the purposes of this case, yes.
So are you the city of Spokane, or you claim to represent the city of Spokane?
I prosecute for the city of
So
Spokane.
you represent the city of Spokane, right?
Yes.
Okay, so you claim to represent it. And now, when's the last time that you've spoken, that you got first-hand knowledge from the claimant, that the claimant told you that there's a controversy?
So we can keep doing this, which it's like one way or the other.
I would love to deal with this matter honorably. I'm just asking for the proper notice. Where is the proper notice? Where's the meeting of the minds?
So meeting of the minds is a term that's used in contract law
Okay, so when did I make a contract with the city of Spokane?
when you parked on its streets.
Do you have first-hand knowledge that I parked there?
The vehicle that is registered to you was the one that was cited.
To me, or to that name?
Um,
Because I was led to believe that that name, the owner of that name, is the United States. Allegedly, I've been told that I am that name, but do I have any first-hand knowledge of it?
here's the thing. So the problem with expired meter citations is that they issue so many of them that they don't take photographs. Photographs are inherently necessary in order for the city to prosecute these claims. So because I don't have that, I don't believe in the case, and I therefore have an ethical duty not to pursue.
So you believe this matter is settled then?
Yes. Yeah. if only I had pictures.
Well, could pictures be hearsay too?
Some pictures are hearsay.
Unless
So, for example, diagrams, like something an expert might draw up, that could be considered hearsay.
Let me ask you this though.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say if you had a picture, right?
Mm-hmm.
Would the picture be able to give first-hand knowledge, first-hand testimony that that's what happened?
Yes. Because we have a local rule, IRLJ 3.3C.
So you believe a picture can talk?
Yes.
How is the picture be able to talk? Are you gonna put a picture to the witness then? You know what I'm getting with this?
I'm sorry?
You know what I'm getting with this?
Yeah, I understand. It's a little bit more nuanced. I mean, if it's something that you like talking about, I recommend law school.
But anyways, if you believe I offended you, please forgive me.
No, you're fine.
But I'm
You're
afraid to
fine.
go. Okay, so I just recording times, that's why I kept moving the mouse. So at the 1 minute and 7 second mark, okay, so you don't have to listen to this bit, this is just my commentary. So at the 33 second mark, the defendant, the judge says the defendant isn't here at 33 seconds. At the 40 second mark, the judge says the defendant isn't here. Now between the 40 second mark and the 49 second mark, this guy goes from in default to checkmate. The judge withdraws from the field but continues on anyway. So his response to the defendant isn't here is, I believe he made a claim to the I believe he made a claim to the name. I'll just play it.
Disturbed in the house, we're dropping the police. You said it couldn't be done, tell me that.
Okay, but the defendant isn't here.
Well, I believe there's a mistake. I was led to believe somebody here believes I made a claim to that name, so when can I speak?
So he believes there's a mistake, and he believes that someone has made a claim, made a statement that he's made a claim to the name.
Okay, but the defendant isn't here.
Well, I believe there's a mistake. I was led to believe somebody here believes I made a claim to that name, so when can I speak to the claimant? Who's claiming I made a claim?
He just short-circuited her program. They everything, when you walk into work and you put your uniform on and you start working and you go through the safety and then you go back to the job and then you revise what you did the day before, and then you start at the point you finished at the day before. It's a program, so you're running through a program, and she's using specific code. He just used the underlying source code for the building of the code she's using in the public. So if essentially public's a bad word, so in the scene, so the source code is used in the background to create the storyline for the code that is used here. And so he's asking her, who's made the statement that you believe that I've made a claim to the name, and that just completely short-circuited her dialogue with him. Now, if you go to 1 minute and 7 seconds, I'll let it play.
To that name.
What are you talking about?
Well, I came to the Soap Court because
Along with that order, he needs the one in 582.
Okay, I can do that. So you're a witness for the person, you're not actually the named defendant?
well, I was led to believe the name belongs to the United States. The United States is the owner.
So he was led to believe that the owner of the name is the United States. So who owns the name? when you got your license, you signed into a corporate structure using the name you go by, which is a handle or an appellation. Right, it's a handle to get your attention, or it's an appellation, metaphysically speaking. And he's asking who owns the name.
Well, if that person isn't here, they'll be found committed for failing to appear.
So now she's making a threat that if he doesn't identify as the name, he'll be arrested and incarcerated, which is a tort, because she's forcing him to be the name.
Failing to appear.
Mm-hmm.
Who's claiming that?
If that person isn't here and no order is entered on their behalf and they're not presented at contested hearing, then they will be found committed for failing to appear.
How can a name answer you?
So what you're saying on their behalf and they're not presented at contested hearing, then they will be found committed for failing to appear.
How can a name answer?
So they'll be found committed for failing to appear. Now CO means to, and mit is the mind. Yeah. So she's saying they will bind his mind by attacking the body, right? And he'll be arrested. So when you arrest someone, they'll hold you until you comply. Ply means to bind. When I ply my trade, I'm binding my knowledge in the metaphysical sense with the physical surroundings, and I create something.
So what you're saying is you'd like to contest?
Well, I'm just a witness. I believe there's a mistake.
Now, she just said you'd like to contest, and all he said was, I believe I'm a witness, and I'm here to clear up the matter, because if he says he'd like to contest, he's identified as the name of the person. Okay, so if he contests, he's identifying himself as the name and the person, which is fiction.
I believe somebody here believes I made a claim to that name, and I came to you guys to correct this mistake.
Does he need to sign the committed one?
So he uses the word mistake because when you make a claim, when you're a minor, you have to stake your claim. You have to drive a stake into the ground, you put a mark on it, you identify the boundaries of the claim, and then you go and file your claim. So mistake is a vital word when talking about a claim. Right? And he's there to correct the mistake, as in he's put it in the wrong plot. Yeah. So the whole claim filing paperwork is based on lex mercatoria. They brought the sea onto the land.
I think so.
Okay. All right. Okay. So signing off where it says defendant. We just need both orders together. So you're either that person or you.
I'm a witness for that name. I came here to give first sentence.
Okay, so what she was doing there, she was just stalling to compose her thoughts, because the clerk down the bottom types on the screen. I mean, these kids are practiced. They're taught from age 5. They're taught about metaphysics at age 5. I've seen it, and they're taught this Levitican system from day dot. Okay, if I go to one of my old movies that I watched yesterday from the 1700s, one of the Civil War movies, the kids are getting taught Latin at age 8. The kids, the little ones, are getting taught Latin at age 8 and reading it and comprehending what they're saying. Right? And all of the Latin they're taught, it's not just a Johnny ran down the road. It's Johnny threw the stone, hit the guy in the head, and he was punished for his misdeeds. So we're getting taught about C-spot run, and they're getting taught about the causation and the result of what their actions are by getting taught Latin. Because Latin is a program; it programs the mind.
Testimony. And
Orders together. So you're either that person or you.
I'm a witness for that name. I came here to give first-hand testimony, and I believe somebody here.
I'm a witness for that name. I came here to give first-hand testimony. So he's basically coming to court to assist the court to clear up the controversy Because when you go into court and you create a controversy, you are not being honourable. Right? You are not being honourable. So when you go into court and you're making a controversy, you're making a claim, and you become the suer, which is the lowest.
Yes, for that name, I came here to give first.
Now, when you make a claim, you're making a claim of harm. I'll correct that. When you make a claim, you make a claim of harm. When you come in there and you dispute that claim, you're creating the controversy. Yeah, it means con means no, tra means body, and verse over sea. Yeah, it's over the sea. So controversy means a storm in the sea of time and space. Right? Because you can't travel when there's a storm. Makes it hard going. So what happens here is he's basically saying, I came here first-hand testimony. Right? He's come in peace.
Testimony. And I believe somebody here believes I made a claim to that name. So when can I speak to that claim?
Well, if they're not...
So now he's saying someone else has made a claim that he hang on, just go back. So he believes that someone believes he made a claim to the name. Now he'd like to speak to that claimant, and by saying that, he now moves the yoke off his neck. The yoke is a harness, the burden, the labour. He removes the yoke off his neck and applies it to the claimant and says, okay, so the judge is now making a claim that someone else has made a claim that he is the name. He's made a claim to that name. And so what happens there is, by doing so, he's not only identified the judge's claim as hearsay, but the first party making the claim hasn't identified themselves yet.
Somebody here believes I made a claim to that name. So when can I speak to that claim?
Well, if they're not here, they can't consent to go to contested hearing, so you won't be called as a witness.
Well, I've been known to use that name.
You have. So
Yeah. Name. So when can I speak to that claim?
well, if they're not here, they can't consent to go to contested hearing, so you won't be called as a witness.
Well, I've been known to use that.
So if they're not here, he can't contest what's been argued. So now she's saying she's completely ignored his claim. He could have pulled her back up and said, well, hang on a sec. You've got a claimant who hasn't shown himself, who's making a claim. She's putting the cart before the horse. She's saying, well, if you're not the name and you're not the defendant, well, then you can't contest. Well, he's there as a friend to the court, amicus curiae, yeah, amicus curiae, and he's basically saying, I'm here as a friend to clear up this matter. And she's saying, well, you can't contest it because you haven't identified as being the man or the person or the name. Well, she's put the cart before the horse because she has to have the claimant there to make the claim.
Name.
You have. So
Yeah. Name. So when can I speak to that claim?
well, if they're not here, they can't consent to go to contested hearing, so you won't be called as a witness.
Well, I've been known to use that name.
You have. So
Yeah.
you are the defendant.
How can
So now she's confusing the fact that he's been known to use the name or go by a name to actually being the defendant. So by me using a power drill, does that mean I am a power drill? So if I've been known to use a car, does that mean I am the car? That's the logic in what she just said. And at every stage, she has sidestepped his question with another question that is not related. And every question he has asked has been a question that is related to the question she's asking. So he continues to ask questions that are related to the question she's asking, and she continues to ask questions that are not related because he checkmates her every time.
maybe a name? Are you the claimant or who's the claimant?
Are you talking about the claim?
So he's asked her, are you the claimant?
I represent the plaintiff.
You represent
It's okay.
you represent the claimant, right?
Mm-hmm.
When's the last time you spoke to him?
So it died down a bit there, but he basically says, you represent the city of Spokane, and she goes, because now she's lost. She is physically lost. She's not driving this vehicle. She's not moving it forward. She's not moving in any direction, right? She is basically stuck physically. Now at 2:35, it's when they start talking about the name. The use of a name does not make you the name or the person. If you've used a name as a handle, as an appellation, so people can get your attention, that does not mean you are the name. The letters in the alphabet are not you, okay? The sound is not you.
To the plaintiff.
Just continue right now.
Well, when was the last time you spoke to the claimant? Somebody's claiming something, right?
So who's making the claim, and when's the last time you spoke to the claimant, right?
Is somebody claiming that there's a controversy in concern to that?
So now she went, she's having to think, because she doesn't normally have to think. She just goes through the program. And now he preempts her. Is someone claiming that there is a controversy concerning that name? So con means no, TRO or STRO is a straight, AEIOU are all interchangeable, ver is a change, and SY is the C, right? So version is movement of sound. It's frequency. Yeah. So C, travel, body, no. Right. They read from right to left. So a controversy is a storm in the sea of commerce. Yeah. It's preventing you from moving forward. So someone claiming there is a controversy, because at no stage here has he claimed controversy. He's just seeking clarification to aid the court in removing the controversy.
Okay, so that person will just be marked as failing to appear.
Did I just give you first and all?
Okay, so that person will be mark a cane as failing to appear. Well, appear, if you look up the word appear, it means to show up out of thin air. So the word appear comes from is the root word for apparition. It's something that is said to be there but has no body, right? Because to make an appearance in law is to file paperwork. They only deal with paperwork.
That I've been known to use that name.
So now she's made a statement. She's made a claim that he'll be marked as failure to appear, and he's just said, "I've been known to use that name. Did I not give you first-hand testimony that I've been known to use the name?"
You can either talk to me, and we can work.
So she's now. This is. It's almost tragic. He's very well practiced in staying on point, and it's a hard thing to do when they start making threats. And he's very meek as well, which is a hard thing to do when you know you're dealing with a lie. It's hard to remain meek. It's hard to remain. It's something I struggle with. It infuriates me, and so and we can work out a deal, right? So now she's talking explicitly about commerce. Okay, she's talking explicitly commerce. We can work out a deal because they create money based on the certificates they issue in triplicate, and so when he signs the paperwork and pays the fee, that's the first payment. When he signs the paperwork, they sell it, right, through Austraclear here in Australia, and it's called a financial bond or a financial warrant. Okay, or it's a financial fine, right? And fine, F-I-N-E, means the end. You've terminated it, right? You've discharged it, right? So say fini in the old movies back, because I grew up in the 70s and 80s, and all the movies ended in say fini, the end. Yeah. So she's basically asking for. She's only 3 minutes in. She's basically asking for him to concede because she can't make the argument.
Work out a deal.
How can I be a name, or how can I own a name? Can you explain that to me?
Okay, we'll save you for the end.
Sure.
Okay. So it looks like you were given a citation for expired.
So at 3:30, he basically says the name was charged, not me, and the name is owned by the state. State is the country, or the state is the state itself. It's an entity. It's a body. It's a state.
Meter.
You mean the name was charged, right?
So was there anything wrong with the meter?
You mean the name? You were talking about the name? Or
So he's still talking about the name and the use of the name, and she tries to trick him now. Okay, now she's basically breaking the rules. Okay, now she's using magic. It's all magic, right? Because they're using spells, linguistics, and spells is spelling. So she's now taking drastic steps here to try and catch him out by talking about the subject matter and lure him out of his argument, which he has checkmated her 3 times already, and now she's trying to take a different tack. So the ship was heading in this direction. There's a ship approaching on its bow. It has right of way, and now she's fired 3 warning shots. He's ignored them because he has a right of way. Now she's having an attack, and so she'll now try and tack, and then and match the speed of the ship, and then get ahead of the ship, and then turn, and then have right of way.
are you talking about me?
Let's skip ahead and talk about the meter. Was there something wrong with it?
Well, I want to ask you, do you have any first knowledge that I am that name? I mean, I believe.
So that's the first check. That's another check. Okay, so he just checked her again.
I believe there's a mistake. I came to the court here because I was led to believe that somebody here, there's somebody claiming that I made a claim on that name. So I was wondering, how am I liable for that name? Who owns that name? Because I've been known to use it, but who owns it? How am I liable for that name? And I would like to deal with this matter honorably. Where's the proper notice? Where's the meaning of the?
So the word honourable comes from the Egyptian word hon, which means harbour, which means safe. Right. So it's all maritime. It's all Egyptian. So hon means honourable comes from hon. It's in honi mondrot, which means safe. Yeah, it means good. So you're in a harbour.
The minds that I agreed with, the claimant that I am the name, or that I own the name. I mean, if I can meet with the claimant, I'd be glad to. What is he that he can give me first knowledge?
So it looks like.
Or that I own the name. I mean, if I can notice. And I would like to deal with this matter honorably. Where's the proper notice? Where's the meaning of the minds?
Okay, the word meaning of the minds essentially describes two men sitting down, and one will be the principal, and he will say, I need you to provide me this service, and I will satisfy your expenditure of energy with some recompense, with some payment. And once they come to a satisfactory agreement on the terms, then they will pen them into a physical state, and it will manifest itself as been set in stone. So once you've drawn the metaphysical, put it into the physical realm, and then you make several copies, which are the originals, and they're all signed and notarized or witnessed. The word witness, W means water, which means life. I is intent, T is the mark of man, so it should always be witnessed. To me, the word notary or notarized means you have no mind. It's N-O is no, T is the mark, no mark of man. So now you're in a corporate realm, like a notary. That's why they call them notorious. They're dangerous. So this is all about tricking you. And so when he says a meeting of the minds, he's basically said, you're forcing a contract on me that I'm not a party to. Now, if you go to Story v. Boyd, Delovio v. Boyd, Judge Story says that statutes are insurance contracts being enforced on land that have no link to land, that are not drawn up on the water, because all maritime insurance is supposed to be written on the water, because the assessor goes onto the ship, assesses the load and assesses the ship, and then based on the ship's condition and based on the load and the distance and the risk, then the contract's drawn up on the water. So insurance contracts are supposed to be drawn up on the water, but what they've done is they brought these contracts onto land, which are the statutes, which we don't have in Australia. We have acts, and so they're standing orders, and so they're applying the insurance contracts on land, because they took the placenta, registered it, which is I think the correct word is necromancy. It's from the Egyptian Book of the Dead. They register that, take your footprints, take your blood, and apply that to the decedent, which is the placenta is always going to die in a period, within a specified period. That you can say that applies to mankind, but no, it doesn't. The placenta was always going to die because it has no heart, right? It beats, the cord beats, and so they then register that as flotsam and jetsam. Right? It's a decedent. It's an infant. An infant in law means something that is dying, right? In maritime law, and so the placenta is dying. It is dying at the point of which it comes out of the body. It will not survive. It dehydrates and then forces all the stem cells into the body. So at this point, there's no meeting of the minds. There's no contract, and if there's no meeting of the minds, that's failure to consider, and that's terminal. So you waive all benefits, because if there's no meeting of the minds, then it's an act of slavery. So if you didn't have input into drawing the statutes and the acts that apply to you, and if they're no, in all constitutions it says no one is allowed to influence a minister in the carrying out their duties. So it says in the Constitution, I think it's section 109 and 113, something like that. No, it'll be in the court section of the courts. And basically, the Liberal and Labor Party influence the ministers before they've even got into office. In fact, they take an oath, and that's why lawyers and barristers can't sit in Parliament, because they've taken an oath. You can't swear the two masters. So because there's no meeting of the minds, anything that she enforces on him is slavery. It's called bonded slavery.
That I agreed with, the claimant that I am the name, or that I own the name. I mean, if I can meet with the claimant, I'd be glad to. What is he that he can give me first-hand knowledge?
So it looks like the citing officer.
So here we go again. She's trying to distract again. She's basically talking about the citing officer, and she's not addressing the claim. He's staying on point, and now he's going to give her a chance to speak, because she's now she's so far behind, it's not funny.
Cited a two-door Lexus with license plate 5, and that is registered to the person who was cited.
Okay, and who does the officer work for?
The city of Spokane.
Okay.
So she could have said, well, who owns the vehicle? And who's it registered to? But in order to make her statement, she had to create a fictitious entity called the citing officer. Right, the citing officer. So then okay, that's who he claims. So now he goes after the officer, because now the officer's making the claim. But who's the officer making the claim for?
That's who he claims he represents?
No, he does represent.
Okay, so is the city of Spokane the claimant? Where is it the city?
We're the
of
plaintiff.
Plaintiff, and who's the plaintiff? Is it the plaintiff the
Is
claimant?
the city of Spokane.
Okay, so the city of Spokane, is the city of Spokane claiming anything? That there's a controversy?
So he's going to cover, is the city Spokane a physical man that can say he's got first-hand knowledge of him? And does the police officer have first-hand knowledge that he parked the car?
That the meter was expired in violation of the Spokane Municipal Code for the vehicle that is registered.
See, it's a little bit dangerous now because he's now talking about the particulars, but he still hasn't claimed the name, which is good. I'm not saying critiquing this guy like I'm better than him. I'm not. That's a fact. But what I am saying, I'm just pointing out the key factors here. That he is not engaging in the subject matter. He is merely trying to ask for verification of the claimant. Who is the claimant? And do they have first-hand knowledge that he is the name?
To Mr. Drive.
Okay, so do you have first-hand knowledge that the city of Spokane said this? Because
I didn't issue the citation, if that's what you're asking me.
So she doesn't answer the question. She misdirects. So she tried to tack across in front of him again, but he's maintained his line because he's got the right of way.
I'm trying to understand who is making the claim, because obviously somebody is making a claim, right?
The city of Spokane, and
Okay.
I'm just here to prosecute that claim.
Okay, since the city of Spokane, and based on your
So she's identified the claimant as the city of Spokane. She's prosecuting the claim. So anything she says is hearsay.
testimony is the claimant, when can I meet that claimant?
Right now.
Right now?
Mhm.
Are you the city of Spokane?
Yes. For the purposes of this case.
Okay, so she just committed perjury.
Yes.
So are you the city of Spokane, or were you claimed to represent the city of Spokane?
I prosecute for the city of
So
Spokane.
you represent.
So she keeps trying to tack across in front of him, and then he keeps maintaining his course. So she's trying to threaten him. As soon as he changes course, then she's now got control of him, right? And then she can keep turning him, and then she'll keep turning the ship until she gets him into her safe harbour.
The city of Spokane, right?
Yes.
Okay, so you claim to represent it. And now, when's the last time that you've spoken, that you got first-hand knowledge from the claimant, that the claimant told you that there's a controversy?
So we can keep doing this, which it's like one way or the other.
I would love to deal with this matter honorably. I'm just asking.
He just, pardon the French, he just fucked her over. I would like to deal with this matter honourably. And he's trying to clarify. He's trying to remove the impediment that's holding the court up, because the court's sailing in a direction. The court is carrying all these pieces of paper, which is the custody, is the cargo, and it's sailing from point A to point B. Point A is 9 o'clock in the morning. Point B is the close of business, right? And it's left its port. It's got back to harbour. It's carrying its paperwork, and it needs to get to the end of the day, which is a safe harbour. And then once it's done that, it processes all the claims that people have defaulted on, and they've come into court under statute as a pagan, and they're going to pay again, and they essentially get paid at the end of the day. This guy is creating he's trying not to create the controversy. The court is the controversy. They're creating the controversy. They're trying to get him to say he is the controversy so they can tax him. And so because he's taking up the court's time, they put him at the end of the day so they could conduct their business. Right? It's a slave trading house. The word court comes from atri. Look it up in Lexilogos translator, and it's correctly. That's the root word for atrium, and atrium means a court. Right? It's a slave trading house. And so what they're physically doing here is they are, for lack of a better word, or he is trying not to be the controversy. They put him back to the end of the day, and when they get through this one, he's essentially stopped them from stamping the document, from getting his signature, so they can access his trust, because the name they're using that they are saying is him is not him. It's not the slightest trust they want access. If he says he's the name, they've got him. It's checkmate. So if he says he's the name, they've got him, and then what happens is they get him to sign the paperwork that they've generated that has their name on it, because it's not his name, even though you signed to it in when you're 18, as in the license or some other type of paperwork. They're basically getting him to sign their paperwork to say that that is him, but all they need is his signature as the principal, right? Or the executor, I suppose. I don't like that word, and I'll explain why later. I'll explain testator and executor. But they're essentially trying to plunder the estate that was created for him under fraud and fiction, right? Which there is no trust when fraud is where fraud is, there is no trust. So the Sesta K Vi trust, or the Citus trust, is based on fraud, so there is no trust. Okay, it's a weapon of genocide. When people wake up, when nations wake up, they go to war and they kill you. That's what SAS, SBS, that's their main job, is they kill you. And what they do is they have these assets and they use them. And within these assets, you have people of an ideology. And those people, when they do the course, they're transferred out, and they go into these little black ops units. And so they get their skill set from the Gentiles or that particular country. Then they get farmed out, and they never do the wet works in the country they live in, or that country they train in. So like the guy that came over here to give me a warning because I got into a verbal argument with the Registrar General in Ireland, Kieran Feely, who laughed at me, and I turned around and told him, mate, I don't know who the fuck you think you are, but it's not hard to get someone sorted out in Ireland. I'll be very careful what you fucking say to me, and don't ever laugh at me ever again, you fucking cunt. And so then they had SBS come and meet me up on the way back from Deborah Bentley's place to word me up, right? And then that was the first time I came back from Deborah Bentley's place. And then the second time I came back from Deborah Bentley's place, I got off the station at Kingswood instead of Penrith. And I'd covered about 5 kilometres when this car pulls up, does a U-turn, and then the guy gets out at the roundabout, runs across to the pub, and the car turns right and goes the other way. The guy walks into the pub, I'm walking up behind him because it's the direction I'm going in. He goes into the pub, he gets knocked back from going into the pub because it's past that point and the pub's closing. So then he walks around the corner out of the shadows, and then I just I legged it about 200 metres in about fucking 25 seconds, and then I just stood there in the shadows, and I watched this guy come out from behind the building where he pretended to walk in. He actually pretended to walk in the Clicks building, and then he walked very fast in my direction, and I'm standing right in front of him, but I'm in the shadows, so he can't see me. And then he walks straight past, and then I get up behind him really close. I pick up a star pick and I break it in half before I got close to him, so it's got a sharp end. And he's on the phone. I'm about anywhere from 15 to 25 metres behind him, again in the shadows, and he's on his phone saying, I can't see him anywhere, I can't see him anywhere. And then the guy on the phone's going off at him, and he goes, I can't fucking find him, right? He's not here. And so this car that turned right comes flying up the road, pulls over on the wrong side of the road. They jump in, and they go driving up and down looking for me, and I'm just watching this the whole time. So they basically knock you off if you wake up. and they could sort this out really quick, right? But they, you know, when Germans didn't want to go to war, they didn't want to get into debt. Hitler used it as an excuse to do what he did. He was an agent for the bank. He's a second grandchild to Rothschild. Rothschild fucked his housemaid, and he was a bastard. And so what actually happened was the whole World War II was staged basically to, the Germans didn't want speculation, and that pushed the price of raw materials up, and that was the only thing that stopped them from starving through the war, through the winter. Because in parts of Germany, winter lasted almost sometimes 6 months, generally 4 months, but they have a harsh winter. It'd hang around longer, and 1/3 of Germany used to starve because of speculation on the through the Lloyd's of London. So that's effectively what's going on. This is it's a slave trading house. Nothing's changed. And they wipe out countries. They wiped out Libya, they wiped out Syria, because they were introducing the gold dinar to cancel out the federal system. So they just murdered him. Right? That's all this is.
For the proper notice, where is the proper notice? Where's the meeting of the minds?
So meeting of the minds is a term that's used in contract law.
Okay, so when did I make a contract with the city of Spokane?
When you parked on its streets.
Do you have first knowledge that I parked there?
Okay, I missed this. At 6 minute mark, the judge says she's the plaintiff as well. So the judge is now sitting whilst interested. Okay? They're supposed to be independent third party trier of fact. Right? They're supposed to get a salary, that's it. Right? That's what the word stipendiary means, Stipendiary Magistrates Act. It means, stipendiary means salary. Right? They're not supposed to be interested in what transpires.
The vehicle that is registered to you was the one that was cited.
To me, what's that name? Because I was led to believe that name, the owner of that name, is the United...
We can keep doing this, it's...
Controversy.
So...
I told you that there's a controversy.
So, we can keep doing this, it's...
I mean, it doesn't get more checkmatey than that. That is checkmate right there. I mean, he had checkmate at the from 33 seconds to 49 seconds. He checkmated her straight away, and he's continued to checkmate her the whole way. Now, the word mate is a shipping term, right? It's a shipping term. You're a mate on a ship.
There?
The vehicle that is registered to you was the one that was cited.
To me, what's that name?
See, now, whenever I say it a lot, whenever someone says or there's been a break in their thought, or there's been a counter argument put towards them, and they need to think very quickly how to make a counter argument. There's been a claim made, and they're going to make a counterclaim. Now, I'm doing it now. Or when someone's telling a lie, like I'm doing now, as in pausing, they're having to think of a counterclaim or a counter argument to counter the lie they've made. So the noises people make shows a pathology of what's going on in their head. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're lying. It means they're having to think, either because they're not engaged in the conversation, they're not focused, or it's technical, or for whatever reason. Now, you hear a lot of kids say like and every third word, and essentially that's their brain not functioning as they speak. So as they're going for a dialogue, they'll continue to say and like, because they can't form the words inside their head.
Because I was led to believe that name, the owner of that name, is the United States. Allegedly, I've been told that I am that name, but do I have any first-hand knowledge of it?
You notice he doesn't answer his own question. Do I have any first-hand knowledge of that? He doesn't answer his own question.
Here's the thing. So the problem with expired meter citations is that they issue so many of them that they don't take photographs.
That is checkmate. That's checkmate. There's no other no other word for it.
Photographs are inherently necessary in order for the city to prosecute these claims. So because I don't have that, I don't believe in the case, and I therefore have an ethical duty not to pursue.
So you believe this matter is settled then?
Yes.
Now you notice the word settled, right? Set, Isis, Horus, and Set. So at the end of the day, they want to settle the matter. Remember, it's an Egyptian cult. At the end of the day, they want to settle Set and El. El is their god, yeah? Set is their god. So Set El, En Set, right? En is Lord and Set. So you would call him Enset, right? And it's funny how Ansett Airlines is an airline because they're flying towards the sun anyway. So Enset is Lord Set, and Setel is Lord Set. So they moved the prefix to a suffix. So at the end of the day, when the sun sets, right, they need to settle the matter, because it's all based on the physical matter. Settle the matter in S, matter, essence. Matter means essence. In S is Latin for matter. Right? So the settling of the matter means the sun has set, and they're acknowledging Set, and this is the Egyptian Book of the Dead.
Yeah, if only I had pictures.
Well, could pictures be hearsay too?
Some pictures are hearsay.
Unless
So for
All pictures are hearsay, all videos are hearsay. If you can't cross-examine it, then it's not first-hand knowledge. And a lot of people say, well, we're going to video. Well, they can make planes look like they're hitting 2 buildings in America, right? But they can't hide the radar signature from the civilian radar, which showed one set of planes, but the military radar showed 2 sets of planes, right? They showed 2 sets of planes. One was a hologram, one was a plane shooting a hologram, right? And it was a jet, and the other one was a rocket. And they put a shroud around it, right? They needed the jet sound, so they had to create a rocket. They plumbed it in. It did a banking turn, which probably would have ripped the wings off the jumbo. And they used the 3D hologram.
example, diagrams, like something an expert might draw up, that could be considered hearsay.
Let me ask you this though.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say if you had a picture, right?
Mm-hmm.
Would the picture be able to give first-hand knowledge, first-hand testimony that that's what happened?
Yes. Because we have a local rule, IRLJ 3.
So she says, yes, and then she made up an excuse. We have a local rule. It's not. Okay, so the picture can't give first-hand testimony. They've made a statute that says it's as good as.
3C.
So do you believe a picture can talk?
Sorry, cities only make bylaws. They don't make statutes or acts.
Yes.
How is the picture be able to talk? Are you gonna put a picture to the witness then? You know what I'm getting with this?
I'm sorry?
You know what I'm getting with this?
Yeah, I understand. It's a little bit more nuanced. I mean, if it's something that you like talking about, I recommend law school.
But anyway.
Now she's trying to stroke his ego to get him to go to bat for their side.
If you believe I offended you, please forgive me.
No, you're fine.
But I'm
We're
afraid
fine.
So now he's asked for forgiveness of sins because the paperwork that he would have had to sign, right, they're traded internationally and they're called sins. CINS, look it up, Federal Reserve. Now, that's probably one of the greatest clips you'll ever hear, because there was no controversy, there was no argument, There was no hot-headedness, and he knew what things were. He knows what metaphysics is. He knows what the physical realm is, and it's a funny thing. Like when I was going through, say for example, year 10 or year 11 English, or year 12 English, I would just read these books that would just, I'll stop swearing, stop using colourful language. Would read these books that would just wind on forever, and I could see what they were doing, but my brain just didn't want to participate in it. Yeah, my brain just didn't want to participate in it. And yeah, I was fluoridated. I was an active kid. I'd ride 15k's to and from work, to and from school, from St Mary's to Emu Plains every day on the push bike. And so a couple of us used to do it as a group. But the thing about it was, you naturally, you're not inclined to this unless you've got a depleted, like you're not very active. You know, your body's, to me, I just think I'm normal. And you get people who are very lethargic. Unless you're very lethargic, this wouldn't really have any interest for you, because it's all fiction. It's all based on harming someone. And what they'll say is, well, if they didn't have this system, you'd have a lot of crime. No. If people were taught Latin from a young age, if people were taught not to harm anyone and use the harm system, so if you harm someone, you get taken out in the street and you get whipped. You know, you break someone's arm, you get your arm broken. You rape someone, you get raped. Right? They get torn up inside, you get torn up inside. And you watch what happens to the crime rate. Right? Or you watch what happens to the harm rate. The harm rate will disappear. And their system is based on fiction. It's based on corporations which have no soul. Right? You look at my, I won't talk about my brother. Right? He doesn't have a Facebook page. He can't. He works for a business, right? And they get government contracts, and he can buy, anyway. So he makes a lot of money. So he can't have a Facebook page talking about anything controversial, because they'll sack him. And his wife can't have anything on her Facebook page, because they'll sack him because of what his wife puts up. So social media is social engineering an outcome. Okay, when Facebook says part of our community guidelines, I've never met anyone in Facebook. I've never met anyone on Facebook or YouTube. I've met like 2 people. That's not a community. It's based on fiction. They're socially engineering how you think. And because they can't break the because they can't keep programming harm so it's natural into man, into the Western man, they're trying to kill them off. And so if you look at any of the clips, you'll see Muslim clerics saying all of the men going to Europe are mujahideen. They're all fighters for Islam. They're all men. There's no fucking women. And then once the men get in there, then they bring the women over, or they go after the Western women. And so what happens is the whole mechanism there is to just kill you off. Every government on the planet is Egypt. Every government on the planet is Egypt. They used song and music, and they went to these tribes, and they taught them songs, and they taught them the instruments, and they gave them technology, and they gave them their language. And they slowly change the words. Right? So I'll just throw this one at you right now before I hang up. Right? The word thank you, T-H-E is the, is thine, is thee, is you. Thee, if you go and look at any kind of my writing, thee has harmed, thee is my love, as in, you know, there's H-E in thee, right? So thee is my love, is my life. So thee is you, is ye, sorry. So thee is man, right? Or it can be a thing, the car, or the man. So it's basically like the word so. So S is force and O is the I. And to translate the word so or such into French, the word is teliment. So the word so is preparing your mind. Right? Teliment, tell the mind. And so, I'm doing it now. And so the is you. And so thank, T-H-A-N-K, is the and bank. Yeah? Is the bank. And so when ye say thank you, you're saying the bank, I owe you. So they created a program, because we didn't used to say thank you, we used to say greetings and salutations. Right? And I wish you good fortune. We never used to say the word God. Right? So here we go again. I'm telling your mind, the word thank you means the bank, I owe you. Because Jesus, J came in 1540 when the printing processes came in, because the ink would bleed between the dot and the body, the eye's head and its body, and it would turn into an L. So J came in, so J is I and I is Y, because Jesus used to be known as Eos, and Eos is Greek or Old English, and it is written as Yeshua. So J is I is Y. So instead of YOU, right, it's IOU in English. So I'm bringing it from Hebrew, or from a Germanic, basically a Yiddish construct, to an English construct. So when you say the bank, thank you, you're saying the bank, I'm a debtor. You're saying I'm a debtor to the bank. Say it backwards, the right to left. It always works, 99% of the time it works right to left. You're saying debtor, the bank, I am. Anyway, that's me done. If you stayed this long, you're either mad or you've got too much time on your hands.